Welcome to Southbank Centre and our first digital Unlimited. Please make yourself comfortable and grab any drinks or snacks you need as the event is about to begin. Firstly, a bit of housekeeping from us to make things run smoothly. If you require captions, please click on the closed caption box at the bottom of your screen to view these. Thanks to Claire Hill and Wendy Osmond for providing these for all live events throughout the festival. If you require British Sign Language interpretation, please pin the interpreter to your screen for live conversations. You can do this by hovering over their video and clicking the pin icon. You may need to multi-pin the interpreter and the speakers. Thanks to Performance Interpreting for coordinating this. If you use social media and want to share your festival experiences, please use @Southbank Centre, @WeAreUnlimited, #UnlimitedFest. We really hope you enjoy this event and the whole festival experience. It's always great to learn from our audiences what has worked well and what we could be doing better. Audience surveys will be sent out for feedback after the events, but do feel free to send personal feedback to unlimited@southbankcentre.co.uk. Thanks and enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome. Hopefully you can all hear me or see me. So my name is Isabella Tulloch Gallego and I am Programme Manager at Unlimited based at Shape Arts. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a 30-year-old white woman with long blonde hair and I'm today wearing a dark grey jumper. Thanks so much for coming today. This session is a chance for us to explore the links between Southbank Centre's Unlimited Festival and Unlimited, the commissioning programme, as well as our important relationship with British Council in more depths. So first, just to start off, that this is a reminder that we are actually recording this session and it will be placed on Unlimited's YouTube channel for those that are in different time zones to be able to access. As we go along, please do ask any questions that you have as they come along, and we'll try and get through as many of these as we can before we sort of aim to finish promptly at 1:30. You can type your questions in the question box, or if for access, you can ask it yourself, for example, for those who prefer to use BSL. So you would just use the raise hand button and our technical wizard Ben will find you and invite you in to ask your question, as this is a webinar, and then you'll just need to accept his invitation at that point. So if we kick off this session, I'd really like to invite two people to kind of join me on screen. We are joined by festival leads from the Southbank Centre, senior producer Ruth Hardy and Sarah Tarry, who's participation producer from the Performance and Public Programme from Southbank. That's a lot of P's. So welcome to you both. I wondered if you could sort of kick off by telling us a little bit about your experiences of the festival, but also its kind of legacy. And then generally about the festival, but then also about how you've had to kind of adapt in 2020 and 2021 to what we're all living through at the moment, which is COVID-19. So over to you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, we put lots of P's in our titles.
Yeah.
For anyone introducing us. Hello everyone, I'm Ruth Hardy. I'm the senior producer for the public programming team at Southbank Centre, as Isabella said. I'm a white woman who's 35. I've got medium length brown hair and I'm wearing a black top and a leopard print cardigan. So Southbank Centre's relationship with Unlimited, obviously the Unlimited commissioning programme was an integral part of the Cultural Olympiad linked to the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And we've been part of it from the start, which has been wonderful. So As part of that, we, as Southbank Centre, then worked with Unlimited Commissioning Programme collaboratively to create the first Unlimited Festival that September in 2012. And it was a mix of commissioned works by the programme and also other incredible work by disabled artists. So that's where we began. Since then, we've worked collaboratively for the last, oh, my maths is terrible, 8-9 years. And this will be our 5th Unlimited Festival, for the first time ever digitally online. We were due to run the festival in September, and then when the pandemic hit, we pushed the festival back to January 2021 to be fully online, but it would usually be in person in the September. And our aims and objectives are absolutely the same as the commissioning programme. We want to help embed work by disabled artists in the cultural sector. We want to, like all of our festivals, inspire, challenge, excite, entertain our audiences with incredible work made by disabled artists. And we want to challenge perceptions that audiences may have of that work. And now I think I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's led on the programming this year for us, to talk a bit about the context of the festival.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tarry. In short, I am a creative producer and programmer at Southbank Centre, which is probably easier to say. My pronouns are she, her. I've got shoulder length blonde hair. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I'm a white woman in her 30s, and I've got round brown glasses. So a bit of context for this year's festival. Obviously, as Ruth said, we had to completely rethink this festival when the pandemic sort of hit us in England. We were about 70% of the way there of programming an in-person festival in September, and then all the arts organisations had to shut their doors, and a lot of us, including myself, were furloughed. So we literally pressed pause on everything. I sat around doing not much for 7 months and not able to work. So we literally had to pause the festival for what felt like a really, really long time. I'm sure it did to our artists as well. But then when we were able to come back and work on this, we got in touch with all of the artists who we had originally intended on programming, and just started having conversations, really seeing where they were, seeing where their work was, how it had developed. And the last session this morning touched on some of the amazing work that Unlimited have been doing and continuing to support artists over the last few months. So what we found was a real mixture of artists who had come to the conclusion that their work was not for a digital audience, and that's absolutely fine. Some artists were like, absolutely, I'm still in, here is my film all ready to go. And some artists were very much in the process of developing their work for a digital audience and for online. So we had a real mix, but essentially everyone was still really excited and up for the challenge. And I think we were pretty open, Unlimited and Southbank Centre, that this was new to a lot of us. Me and Ruth aren't digital programmers, and none of us sort of expected to be working in this way when we first started working on Unlimited, but we have all been working together to find the answers to a lot of the questions and work with the artists to see what's best for them, which has been a really brilliant experience. And the aims remain the same as they always were, like Ruth said. Apart from the fact that now we are digital, there are some negatives, obviously. I think we touched on that earlier this morning as well. But digital also means that there are some real opportunities there. All bar one event in this festival is free, which is amazing. Not doing things on site in a venue does bring some costs down, which enables you to make access to that work free, which is brilliant. Shows are available on demand, which wouldn't have been able to happen before. You can watch it at your own pace, which is brilliant. I love what was said earlier about watching it in the bath. I'm now definitely going to be watching some shows in the bath.
Yeah.
I just think that's amazing. And we can reach more people with the work. You don't have to be in London, you don't have to come to Southbank Centre, and that is really, really brilliant. And I think there are huge positives to that aspect in particular that I can imagine we'll be holding on to in the future as well.
Definitely. I want to actually just see if Jo Verrant wants to join us at this point. Senior producer at Unlimited. And me and Jo essentially work with you and Sarah on this festival. So we're kind of used to these people in a room together, a virtual room, if that. But Jo, I wondered if you wanted to just sort of summarise Unlimited's involvement in the festival, but also how you've seen it change across those 5 years, and then kind of looking at it this year in a totally new light.
So my name's Jo Verrant. I'm a 50-something white woman with pink hair, tending towards the plump. Unlimited and the Southbank, that relationship is really important, not just for us, but also for artists. It's absolutely a core element that drives people to want to engage with the commissioning programme. The opportunity to be platformed at the world's largest arts centre is an immense one. But we have to make it really clear that we don't actually, it's not an automatic given that a work that is commissioned by Unlimited will be part of an Unlimited festival. There is a curatorial process that Southbank go through in terms of selecting which work is most appropriate for that platform. We commission the work, but Southbank pay for that work in the same way that they would pay for any other piece of work. Sometimes they programme a piece of work not at the festival, but at another point. Sometimes the work isn't suitable, and that's all fine. And the Southbank Centre isn't the only place that work that we commission tour to, and that's often an erroneous assumption for people. When we commission a piece of work, we commission it for a wide range of audiences. And the biggest audience isn't usually at the Southbank Centre. It's through that sharing in other contexts, which is really, really important. But for the work that is platformed there, it opens the possibilities for an artist. It means they can add that they have been on at the Southbank Centre to their CV, whether it's a visual arts exhibition, whether it's a piece of performance. And that carries enormous weight within the industry. It really does. It does. It's a real mark of achievement. And I know Neil from the British Council will talk more about the international impact of the festival too, but it really is immense. I think this year has been really different. So over the years, what shifted and changed has been the range of work that we commissioned, because we started off commissioning 6 pieces at a time. And I think we now have kind of, 26 or so in batches. So the scale has really increased. And also we broadened out the range of people selecting work. So Southbank Centre now have representation on all of our selection panels, which is brilliant. So they are engaged in helping select which work. We don't select work for a festival, but they are involved in that process of selecting work, which I think is really important too, because it means we all start to understand the potential of work as it's being realised, rather than just, once it's already there. This year's been really difficult, obviously, for everybody, for the artists principally. We didn't have to furlough anybody because we didn't have we don't have a building. We weren't under the same financial pressure. And that meant that Isabella and I were kind of sat around twiddling our thumbs or concentrating on other things. We very rarely twiddle thumbs.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
And Ruth and Sarah and other people on the team were so accommodating of us kind of going, any news yet? have we got a date? Can we do this? Can we do this? You know, we were kind of like a bit like a terrier at the heels of Southbank Centre. And we were so delighted when the decision was taken to both postpone and move things online. Yeah, and as everybody's saying, it's new to all of us. You know, we will all make mistakes, and that's okay. We're all okay with that. We're all okay with the fact that we are trying to do we made the decision to try and do a huge amount rather than put 5 things on, because we wanted that for the artists, and we wanted it for ourselves. But we know that what comes with that is the fact that along the way we will make mistakes, and that's okay. We'll learn from them. I don't think we'll ever go back to not having a degree of onlineness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of what this opens up.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect time, one, to just pause and let the interpreter swap. Rachel, I think is going to come on soon. Thanks, Rachel. And actually, I want to bring Neil into that conversation as well. So Neil Webb, Director of Theatre and Dance at the British Council, would you like to join us on the screen? Hello. And I just wondered if you wanted to explain a little bit about British Council's involvement across the years with the Unlimited Festival and the kind of impact that you have seen personally from the festival, and the kind of ability to reach different countries with the work that's showcased there.
And good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Webb. I am a 50-year-old white man with short grey-brown hair. I'm about 6 foot tall when I'm not sitting down. Today I'm wearing glasses and a very bright blue David Shrigley t-shirt which says, "Don't make me angry." But that's impossible today because I am ridiculously excited that we are finally here together, albeit in 2D, celebrating Unlimited, the artists and the festival yet again. So I'm Director of Theatre and Dance at the British Council. I also lead on our partnership with Unlimited and our global disability arts program, which at last count spanned 47 countries. So we have been taking over the world together since 2012. I mean, it started long before 2012, but 2012 was very much a kind of key catalyst moment. I should say a little bit just what the British Council is. We describe ourselves as the UK's international cultural relations organisation. We are a charity. We are not a political organisation, which, as you can imagine, is a little bit difficult in current circumstances, remaining non-political. I'm sure we all face that challenge. And we're in the people and bridges business. So creating links, learning and understanding between people in the UK and the rest of the world. And with apologies in advance to Rachel, the interpreter, because I just had a look on Twitter to see which British Council offices have been interacting in the last couple of hours. And I saw, ready, Japan, Malaysia, Palestine, France, Germany, Canada, USA, Indonesia, Egypt, China, Bulgaria, Japan, Australia, Ukraine, and Poland. And that was just in the last 2 hours. So it's very exciting to see such a range of international engagement. And I'm sure that's only going to grow over the course of the day and the days. So yes, like Southbank Centre, we've been in it since the beginning with Unlimited. One of the founding partners, you might say. In the lead up to 2012, the London Olympic and Paralympic Games, we funded several international collaborations, which were part of the wider commissioning of new work by deaf and disabled artists across the UK. And together that international work and the UK work, the Southbank Centre, took it upon themselves to put it all together, or not all of it, but a lot of it, into the first festival in 2012, which was amazing. And we decided to use, if you will, that festival, as we do working with many festivals, to create an international showcasing moment. And that first year, we invited international delegates, delegates being artists, producers, curators, programmers, activists from around the world. And in 2012, there were 50. In 2018, there were 150. And in 2021, I have no idea how many we're going to have because there isn't a registration process. But from those 50 and the subsequent 100 and the subsequent 150, so many exciting opportunities, new partnerships, collaborations and exchanges have happened around the world. And we have really seen a huge proliferation, growing, interconnected disability arts movement, which is taken the world by storm, really. Challenging perceptions, improving access, influencing policy, and sharing some really, really brilliant art around the world. I cannot stress enough how amazing, how influential, and how exciting the work with Unlimited, with the Southbank Centre, and with deaf and disabled artists across the UK is, and how impactful it has been and continues to be. So I'm really excited. It's very strange not to be at the Southbank Centre together today, gathering in our industry space, welcoming friends from all over the world. But we are here, we're here together, and I think that's the most important thing. And yes, the hurdles, the ups and downs, is it happening? Is it not happening? Oh, it's postponed. Oh, the colleagues are furloughed. So I want to just say a huge, huge thank you and congratulations to everyone that has made this happen. And in case you can't tell, I'm really excited. So Joe, back to you.
Not me, back to Isabella. This is Neil on
Yes,
a couple of cups of coffee.
Yeah, I've had 2 pots of coffee.
I mean, I think for maybe anybody watching, I think we'll definitely get to some questions in a few minutes. But I guess if there's any things that you're really excited about for this festival in this iteration, just kind of anybody, if there's anything that is kind of really exciting. Obviously, it's all in a new format and we'll take it as it comes. It's our first, for everybody, it's the first festival that we've done like this. But I just wondered if there's anything, whether it's specific artwork or just kind of across the board, if what you're most excited about.
I'm happy to jump in first while other people are pondering over the whole programme. I think one of the things we talked about quite early on in the can it happen, how does it happen, how will it feel, was that way to feel connected during the festival still, even though we're all on screens miles away from each other. And so I'm really excited about trialling this kind of combined watch party, a bit of pre-recorded work with a live Q&A with artists, so that we're all in the same room together, experiencing it together. There's quite a few of those events. So just generally, I'm excited about that, to see how that works for us and to see if that makes us all feel a bit more connected. Individually, I'm excited about so much. I'm really looking forward to the events that have sort of been created bespoke for the festival this year. So lots of artists obviously have had to totally rethink the piece of work they're making. to adapt it. Some have done that, but it's quite closely linked to their original piece. There's an artist called Sunny Wachikwu who is doing a piece at the weekend called Saturn Returns. And he's a really exciting artist. I think the work he's putting out there for this festival is totally different from his original commission. And I think that's quite scary in some ways, because it's not how it was originally designed, but I think it's going to be an amazing piece of work based around a poetry collection that he's now published. So that's one of the ones I'm most excited about. There's a lot more, but I'll hand over to others because there's loads to talk about, obviously.
I'm going to jump in and say I'm delighted that there is one physical work across the windows at Southbank Centre. There's Susie Lark's Unseen, which I don't live in London, but I've seen photographs of it up there. I think it just looks stunning. And I think to be able to have a physical work in a virtual program, and don't worry, there's a beautiful film which has shots of it being installed as well as shots of the work and audio description. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I do think it's a work about mental health and about showing that physicalization of how different people think about themselves within the world. I just think it's so of the moment. And so, you know, it wasn't made in relation to the pandemic, but it really does speak. So many of those images really do speak to now and to how different people are feeling. I absolutely love that you were able to make that happen, which must have taken quite some doing. Congratulations.
Neil, I feel like you want to jump in.
I always want to jump in. It might just be because I've had too much coffee. I just feel very jumpy. Well, I've obviously, much like listening to Anna this morning, have a list of everything to watch. But of course, I can't not give a shout out to the things which are beyond the artistic presentation program. Having, as of yesterday, spoken to each of my panelists, Cyrus, Hannah, and Sandy in Canada, Indonesia, and Taiwan, respectively, I am very, very, very excited to be chairing their conversation on Friday, because I think it's going to be amazing. And also, again, a huge thank you to Isabella and the rest of the team. I should point out also that my colleague, although not on the screen, lurking, Becky Hinton, who is British Council Unlimited lead on all these things related to the festival, is with us. You have amazingly, we've tried to work out how can we do what we would do if we were physically all together in one space for the international industry and the artists? Those moments of brokering those relationships, getting people together in a room, having conversations, being able to talk about work, collaborations, the possibility of touring. Obviously, we don't have an industry space, not a physical one. We can't meet physically between shows, but what we are doing is extending, if you will, the program by 3 days, which is just for the artists and the international industry to get together in the Zoom and have those conversations that they might have face-to-face where we at the Southbank Centre. Again, like so much else we're doing, it's a first. We don't know how it's going to work. We're taking a big risk. We're doing it twice a day to try and accommodate as many time zones as possible. So I'm just hoping people show up. How it goes when it goes.
I just want to take a moment to let Rachel and Rob swap. There we go. Thanks, guys. So Sarah, I wondered if you had anything that you wanted to highlight or mention for the festival, and then I will do the same.
Yeah. So I was gonna, I think Ruth touched on this, but lots of the artists are presenting work in this festival that is not the work that they started with, and that's been really, really brilliant to hear about their process. But the final pieces that they've ended up with, even though some of them have had to reassess everything they were doing, they're absolutely brilliant. And I don't think you'd be able to tell which ones have had to do a complete 360 unless it says in the copy, obviously, unless we tell you. But some that I can think of, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited about these ones is because it's for the artist. This is not the end of a tour for them anymore. This is the start of sharing some new work that had its origins in something in the physical. And I think for them, it is a premiere, even if some people have seen the work live in another space in the country. This is its first outing, and that comes with nervousness and excitement. And having seen all of the work, I know that there's no need for them to be nervous because it's really, really brilliant. And I'm really excited for them to get that feedback as well. So some of these pieces are the origin of calm and power. That started as, I think they've been developing that for about 3 years, and they have been working on something that was always going to be a live performance. It's now a digital storytelling website, and that is available for the whole 5 days. And by developing that, Carmen is one of the artists, and she's a 12-year-old girl, and that's our youngest artist in the festival, which is fantastic. And because they have had to develop that work and change it, it now means that work can go directly into hospitals. They've been working really closely with Great Ormond Street Hospital, and that wouldn't have happened before, and that's fantastic. What an amazing thing to have happened. Instagramming the Apocalypse as well started as a live show. It's now a film in its entirety. It's an absolutely fantastic film, really, really brilliant. And if you want to watch that live, that's on Friday at 7:30, sorry. And then there's a talk and a DJ set as well, because everyone needs a DJ set on a Friday night, which is great. One Woman as well, which is on Thursday night, started as a live piece. That is now a film in its own right. So a lot of things have had a really extraordinary journey and are now existing in an entire new art form, which is not an easy thing for an artist to do, to just shift the art form that they're working in. But Unlimited have been able to support them to do that process in such a brilliant way that the pieces we now have in the festival are extraordinary. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
Fantastic. I think one of mine is the same as one you've already mentioned. So Byron Vincent, I think for a lot of artists, it was that they had created something and they were starting to tour just as the pandemic hit. So for example, that's one that I had bought a ticket to that was going to be in Croydon, and me and the team were going to go together, and that is something that we missed out on as a kind of fallout from the pandemic. So a lot of work had either started and done a few sort of tours, or had just had to cancel things or pause things. So it's really exciting for me to just see everything together, and that we've managed to pull this off. So thank you for everybody at the South Bank, really. I think obviously Ruth and Sarah have put so much time into this, but there's a lot of people that aren't in this that I think are really sort of key to just say thank you to them as well. I wondered if we just start to take some questions. I've got one already. I think if there's any more that any of the audience have, please send them our way. We've got one from an anonymous who's just saying, I wasn't able to attend the morning session, so I'm curious to understand more about what it means that Unlimited will become an independent organisation. So slightly off topic in terms of festival, but does tie into the kind of long-term relationship that we have. Jo, I wonder if you want to take that one.
Absolutely. So we'll be doing a slow transition to becoming an independent organisation. So we started last year. We've now got a board in place. We'll be becoming a limited company and a registered charity, but nothing will change for the artists dramatically. It's going to be a slow process over a year until 2022, when we're fully independent. But if you keep an eye on our socials, you'll see where we might be located, and you can find out who's on the board, a range of things like that. But it's something we're all working together. So our delivery partners at the moment, Shape Arts and Arts Admin, are fully on board with us becoming independent now. We've worked and used their hospitality. They've been brilliant hosts for 8 years now. But yeah, it's time we grew up and left home, as we kind of see it. And in terms of the festival, the Independent Unlimited will still have a relationship both with Southbank Centre and also with the British Council. So that's not going to shift or change. That will just nudge its way over to be a relationship with the new organisation rather than the current programme. But you should be able to soon watch the morning session on catch up. So if you keep an eye on the socials, you'll see when that is, and you can find out a little bit more. We had our chair this morning, Anna Starkey, talking about the new vision for Unlimited and some of the elements that make up the new organisation.
And we had a question actually from a previous session, which I think might be relevant mentioning now, which was just about kind of international work and how that might be able to slot in with the festival. Obviously, this version has a lot of work from the UK, but that's not always been the case. And I wondered if Sarah or Ruth wanted to just discuss that a little bit about how you kind of select work and what is that curatorial process.
We didn't create a seamless way to decide who was going to answer this, but as Sarah started on the programming this year, why don't you kick off, Sarah, and I'll chime in with my 2 pence worth at times.
Yeah, so the process of curating of the festival, we always start with the commissioned artists. That is always our starting point, to look at that work, and then we look at the kinds of art forms that is in there. And we have to be looking at a festival program to represent lots of different art forms, lots of different ways for audiences to engage with the work and see different types of work, and also different work at different stages of development. We also program work that's not finished yet and still has needs to have a sharing with an audience. So that's always our starting point. And then we look at people who have got in contact with us. They've shared their work, they've shared videos, they've shared pictures. We go around the country, we look internationally for work. We go and see things that are on tour to see whether it's appropriate. We watch videos. We ask for recommendations from our colleagues in other organisations, nationally, internationally. And so we look at that starting point, that core of the commissioned artists, and we see where the gaps are. And then we try and build up the layers of a festival with other work that's not necessarily been commissioned by Unlimited. Ruth, I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
No, I think that covers it, apart from also there's always boringly a bit of practicality to it, which this year we've had less of, but often we're limited by a number of halls and a number of spaces and a finite amount of time and people to deliver work. And while some of those things still exist, particularly the budget, like Jo said, we pay for the work to be performed like we would any other festival. We are helping actually with the commission for the next round, but we don't commission the work, but we pay for the festival to happen. So that's a limitation as well. This year it's been easier because we don't have physical spaces that we have to get in and get out of and avoid clashes. We've just got a small behind the scenes wonderful tech team in Ben who's making all that work. But yeah, we love to hear from artists, and what we want to do is put on amazing work all of the time. So that's our starting point, and as much of that we can see in advance and hear from artists in advance from that we might not have met before is great.
Thanks. We have a question from Anne Noel. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Has the Unlimited British Council collaboration over the years inspired other countries to organise disability-led arts festivals? Neil, you're nodding. I feel like I'll hand it to you.
The short answer to that, yes. I can't name them all at the moment, but I mean, everywhere from Qatar to Palestine to Korea, Indonesia, a lot of firsts. It's also inspired some of the first disabled-led or integrated theatre companies and dance companies. Yeah, it has, and it's amazing to watch. And what's also amazing to watch is where it has inspired programmers from the quote unquote mainstream festivals around the world to program more work by deaf and disabled artists as well. So it's twofold.
And Joe, I wondered if you had anything else to add to that as well.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to follow on that, because even within the UK, that's happened. We were asked at varying points why we don't do unlimited festivals in various different towns or cities. And the only other unlimited festival has been in Glasgow, due to a very specific relationship with Tramway. And the reason that we don't do it within the UK is very much about disability-specific festivals are brilliant and are great. They're fantastic opportunities for disabled artists to get together and network. But actually, that's not where most disabled artists share their work or want to share their work. They want to be within every other festival rather than in a festival that only focuses on disabled artists. So that was really important to us. Southbank Centre is an absolutely stunning opportunity. If we're going to have one disability-related culmination of the work, then let's have it at the biggest art centre in the world. Let's do that. But let's not necessarily pigeonhole disabled artists into disability festivals, and that's the only place you can see them. So within the UK and internationally, it's really important for us that that work just gets programmed as excellent art, which is where most of the work is seen, is within standard programs and not in a disability specific context. And a lot of the work doesn't necessarily reference or mention disability. Some does, some doesn't.
And I guess it's important for us to add there as well, from a Southbank perspective, we absolutely love to have Unlimited, and it's a great moment in our calendar every 2 years to celebrate and sort of spotlight in one place and get a real buzz around all of this work. But it's not the only time in the year that we would programme work by disabled artists. Disabled artists are artists in their own right and don't have to be pigeonholed, as Joe said, and we will programme work by disabled artists throughout the year in our main art form programmes and other festival programmes as well. So that is important to know. It's not you get one chance every 2 years kind of thing.
Right, I'll just take a moment to allow the interpreters to swap. Thanks, guys. I wondered, Sarah, if you had anything else to add.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one of just picking up on what Ruth said, the work that we're introduced to through Unlimited, the R&D stuff is often really interesting, and sometimes does have a sharing as part of the festival, but that is quite often the start of something that we can then continue to work on with artists, and then in the next festival, another festival, as part of our program, summer, winter, whenever it is, we can then program the work that is when it's finished. And that's really brilliant to have that starting point with Unlimited when it's at that initial seed stage, which is really great.
Definitely. We have another question from Sarah Bagshaw, who's just asking, would you be able to talk about some of the key international partnerships that Unlimited has developed over the years and what has made them successful or not? And just an example of kind of partnerships with other festivals, arts organisations, or kind of other international artists, and how that is seen evolving in the future.
I'm expecting you're going to give this question to me, but I'm actually going to ask.
No, Joe, I feel could also, I think something crosses everybody really, so.
I think For me, I can't give one example because there are just so many different examples. And it ranges from countries that have taken a very similar approach, where they have worked on a festival model, they have brought kind of work over together, often showcasing the work of disabled artists from the UK, and then bringing in local disabled artists as well, and then amplifying that out. But also to countries like Indonesia, who went, actually, we will embed disabled artists within everything that we are doing. So the British Council office there looked across all of its different programmes and started to work with disabled artists on all of those programmes. And then only when there was a body of local work did they bring that together and actually have a moment of celebration, which I thought was really interesting. Some countries have taken a social approach and looked at what is the impact of this work on disabled people and the way that they're seen within society, or the potential for disabled people to earn money, or all of those elements. Because the world is so varied and so different, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Disabled people are marginalised and discriminated against systemically throughout the world, yeah, but in very different ways. And what counts, in inverted commas, as a disabled person also varies across the world. Getting mental health recognised as an impairment in some countries is quite challenging. Invisible impairments, hidden impairments, are not necessarily as well understood. The conversations around neurodiversity, again, vary. The conversation varies depending on where you are in the world. And all of those conversations are absolutely kind of fascinating. In terms of the evolution, obviously it's going to be impacted by Brexit. It's also going to be impacted by money and the impact of COVID-19 on the world, the arts ecologies, the funding that is available to the arts. And sadly, it's also going to be impacted by the fact that 2/3 of the people in the UK who've died of COVID-19 have been disabled people. It is decimating our community. And as somebody who's in the clinically extremely vulnerable group, I don't go outside often. I might go for a quick walk around the woods, but most days I stay indoors. I'm petrified. I don't want to die. It's a really big thing for me, funnily enough. And that's going to have an impact on when we start to travel again. I've cancelled 12 international trips this year. And now I've realised I didn't need to be taking those in the first place. So it's going to be really interesting to see how working impacts on the future too, ways we keep those elements running, but particularly in a much more sustainable, environmentally friendly way.
Definitely. I did wonder. Oh, I think we're losing Jo a little. Oh, you're here. It's fine. You're back. Neil, I wondered if you did have anything you wanted to add to that.
There's just, I mean, I think Jo's pretty much outlined it. Everywhere is different. The approach is different. And, you know, our work, as I said in the beginning, is to facilitate and to link people up. And, you know, we don't do disability arts. Disabled artists and disabled-led organizations do. And our job is to put those people together. And what comes out of that is, well, I mean, anything is possible. But yeah, you know, there have been, a lot of it has led to substantial policy change in some countries. Conversely, you know, there are some countries where policy, legality, access is better than here. So it's not always a one-way street, and it is about sharing that in terms of, you know, how different countries, societies, governments, politics perceive disability, perceive access, attitudes around relaxed performance, neurodiversity, all of those things. There is no one size fits all. And some of the smallest projects can have some of the largest impact. And then at the other end of the scale, we have things, you know, we met, third time mentioning Brexit this morning, but we are still the lead partner in a Creative Europe funded project, Europe Beyond Access. It's a €4 million project with multiple partners across the EU, which is about creating more opportunities, professional opportunities for disabled artists, getting more artists programmed, improving access. But, you know, similarly, one artist presenting work or doing a workshop can be the start of, you know, that can be the catalyst for a wide ranging, impactful societal change. Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, Neil. So I just want to check if we've got any more questions. Jo, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I just want to ask Ruth and Sarah. So one of the questions that we get most often is, how do I get my work? I'm not commissioned by Unlimited. Can you program my work? To which we go, we are not the festival. And I just wanted to ask you two, if somebody is out there and they want to get their work programmed, they're not commissioned by Unlimited, what, you know, 3 tips, what should they do?
I can start this one off. Just get in touch. And I know I say just because it's not always as simple as that. We really recognize, and we're starting to do a lot of work, more work on this. We recognize that Southbank Centre can seem very faceless and just sort of brand and closed doors, but there are people like me and Ruth behind every single email address, and if someone emails us with a pitch, an idea, it doesn't matter what stage it's at, we will always try and speak to you, meet with you, have a phone call, read the work. It might not always be right for that moment in terms of programming. We start programming roughly about 6 months before any of our festivals happen, sometimes more advanced than that, sometimes much shorter. There's no real sort of standard, but the main thing that you can do is to invite us when you are sharing your work. So if you have you know, scratch performances, R&D performances, share those invites so that someone can come and see it. And something we come across a lot is that work isn't filmed. So I would really recommend people to film their work, because we can't go to everything. We can't go to every sharing. We can't see every show. And sometimes we're relying on a bit of web description of a show or a piece of work, and the artist saying it's really great, and we can go, yes, it looks really great, but we also have a responsibility to really understand what that work is before we move it forward. So the more information you have about your work, the better. So photos, audience feedback, recordings, invite us to things, log the process, and get in touch with us, and we will also do our part in making sure that it is easier for you to get in contact with us, because we have a way to go there, I think.
Yeah, I'd add as well, we do as our team have an email address that goes to all of us. I think one of the things we're quite aware of, which we are working on, is that we are a massive organisation, slightly smaller, sadly, than we were last year, but still massive. And you can end up going to one person and jumping around the houses a bit. So I'd also say be a little bit persistent if you don't get a response straight away. Hopefully in the back of house, someone is sending that to the right person, and eventually it will trickle through to us. But for our team directly, we're public programming at southbankcentre.co.uk. That goes to me, Sarah, but the rest of our programmers in our team as well. And we will pick that up. We might not respond within a couple of days, but we'll always respond. And the more we know, like Sarah said, the better, and we'll do our best to see as much or speak to you and get to know you. And it might not be that the piece of work you have at the time or sort of the time in our programming is right, but then we've at least got a relationship with you and you can keep sharing work with us and we can come back to you when the time is right.
Definitely. I wondered if either of you might be able to pop that in the chat, just so that people have got access to it as well. I mean, I think we're going to have to probably stop there so that we can wrap up and allow some time before the next event, which is within the industry programme, which Jo Verrant and Ido, who we introduced earlier in the morning session, will be doing a meet and greet for industry professionals. So that's coming up shortly. I just want to sort of end with first a huge thanks to Southbank, and like I said, all the teams that are involved in the background. And then the same goes with British Council and kind of the teams that are in the background for you guys, as well as some of our key funders. So Arts Council England, Arts Council Wales, Creative Scotland, I've obviously mentioned British Council. But for some of this work, also Paul Hamlin has been really key to help with getting that available. But I think the most important thanks really is to all the artists that are involved in this festival for sticking with all of us through this process and just creating really inspiring work that's available online for everybody. So really, really chuffed. Thank you guys for being part of this. It's almost felt like a normal meeting.
That's every other day, isn't it? It's like today.
Yeah. But yes, so thank you for all attending and joining with us this conversation. And thanks for everybody that's been watching and kind of sticking with the process. So thanks again. And I also want to just thank Ben and all the interpreters and Claire, who's doing the captions. And I'll stop now and let us go on to the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.